Hi everyone, it's Ashley here in downtown Washington, D.C. for your first installment of Wanderlust Weekly. I'm sorry for the delay. I was walking around downtown trying to find something near my hotel, and I got sidetracked and needed to find a place where I could post up to start this. So thanks for joining me. It's just going to be a short clip because I don't want to take up too much of your time. So let me show you where I'm at right now. I'm in downtown DC. I'm on the corner of Connecticut and L by the Farragut North station of the Metro. Close to my hotel right over there. It's the Mayflower Hotel. I'll show you it to you in a little bit. But I just wanted to quickly introduce to you the concept of Wanderlust Weekly. And today's topic for Wanderlust Weekly is going to be my favorite places in DC. So Wanderlust Weekly is just me checking in on Wednesdays, Wanderlust Wednesdays, to talk about various travel topics with you. There's always all kinds of topics swimming around in my mind. So, the subject could change all the time, and it's just going to be a different topic every time. So it's going to be a short video and just little snippets here and there. And I encourage your participation. So if you have any questions or comments, feel free to raise your hand, give a like, try to swipe so I can see if anybody's on. Right now I cannot see if anybody's on. Hold on. Is it going to let me do it? It's not, so I'm missing it today. But anyway, comment, like, love, sad face, mad face, laugh, whatever you want to do. But I'm going to turn this around so you can just see what's going on in DC here. So I don't know if you guys know this, but I lived in DC a few years ago. I went to graduate school here, so did my husband. We went to George Washington University, and it's in downtown DC. It's over by the White House, over by Watergate, sort of close to Georgetown. And we both got our masters there, and while we were here for 2 years doing that, we lived in Arlington, which is just outside the city limits of DC in Virginia. And a lot of people end up living outside the city limits of DC in Virginia or Maryland simply because it can be a lot more affordable and you can get more space. The close cities like Arlington, Alexandria, those kind of cities are still pretty expensive. This area is one of the most expensive areas in the country to live. Fun fact about DC is this is about as tall as the buildings get within the city limits because none of the buildings are allowed to be built over the height of the Capitol building. So that's why when you look across the river into places like Arlington, you see the skyscrapers because they're actually available to build to that height. So that's part of the reason why it's expensive to live here. When you limit the height that a building can be built, you limit the capacity in the city, and therefore prices go up. And of course, it's economically busy here, so people want to come here, work, live, go to school. So it's high demand location. DC is a very cosmopolitan city. There's lots of different nationalities here. As you know, there's places like Embassy Row that have all of the different embassies that have a presence in the United States. So with that, of course, comes all of the great cultures that come with all of the embassies. Plus, there's just a general immigration, huge population of immigrants in the city. So I'm going to switch it back to me. It's pretty balmy here in the summer. So if you come in the summer, make sure to wear layers. And in the winter it can be cold, but it's a humid area, and with all the asphalt, it's not super cool. But most, if not all, of the buildings are air conditioned. I think you guys probably know a lot about what you can do and see in Washington, D.C., but I'm going to tell you a few of my favorites that you might not know of. So aside from the free museums like the Smithsonian, which if you didn't know, they're free, I have a couple favorite museums that are outside of the Smithsonian. My favorite DC museum is the International Spy Museum, and that's actually a private museum, so you have to pay to access it, but it's so awesome. I've been there multiple times. It's interactive, and you totally geek out if you're into spy culture. A couple other noteworthy museums are the Newseum, and it's just got world-class exhibits. Goes through the history of news, really great stuff. The Holocaust Museum is also very deeply touching. I always remember the exhibit that they have of the shoes. There's just thousands of shoes from the concentration camps there, and if you want to get a better understanding without leaving the United States of what occurred during the Holocaust, that's a great place to get an understanding. The National Zoo, which is on the north side of the city, is free. You have to pay to park there, and of course you have to pay to eat and do all the other things, but there's a lot of free activities for people here. So if you have children, it's a really great place to visit. There's always school trips here, so there isn't necessarily a down season, but of course summer is hot and crowded. So I personally recommend coming on the shoulder seasons, which are fall and spring. Spring, of course, is the beautiful Cherry Blossom Festival, and fall is my favorite season in Virginia because it finally cools off and it's just perfect weather before it starts to get cold. Some of my favorite restaurants and places to eat around here are Founding Farmers. It was pretty close to where I used to go to school in George Washington University. It was actually founded by GW graduates from my business school program, and they're all about farm-to-table, sustainable food. They do just a high level of service, high level of cuisine, and they actually have multiple locations now. They've been very successful. I love for nightlife the Gibson. It's a speakeasy, and it's in the U District, which is sort of been gentrifying over the last 10-20 years, and so there's a lot of really cool nightlife places, food places. That's actually where the area that Ben's Chili Bowl is. So if you're not familiar with Ben's Chili Bowl, it's one of the most famous places to eat in DC. Let's switch around so you can see what's going on the streets here. But the Gibson is a speakeasy, so it's you have to look it up online. The address is, you can find the address there, but it's literally just a door, and it looks like a door to an apartment because there's no sign for the Gibson, so you have to know where you're going and then knock on the door. They only take you if they're able to seat you, so reservations are recommended, but they have very high quality cocktails, and it's all dark, and it's a legitimate speakeasy experience. Some of my favorite restaurants are actually outside of the city because DC is sprawled out so much. Pretty much most of my favorite, I would say, multicultural restaurants are outside of the city. So my favorite pizza place is called Pupatella, and it's in I always get it mixed up I think it's Arlington, but they actually just opened a location in Richmond, so it's only an hour away from me now. But look up Pupatella, Pupatella, and they are a part of the True Association of Neapolitan Pizza, and that's it's an association that has specific criteria for materials and methods and equipment that you use in order for it to be a true Neapolitan or from Naples pizza, which is where pizza was invented. Let's see what else. My husband really loves coffee. He's a coffee snob, and his favorite place here is Compass Coffee, and they have multiple locations. Fun bar is Nellie's. It's a sports bar for the LGBTQ community, and it's always fun. They have a rooftop where they play bocce. They have a bocce tournament, a bocce league. I know that the city has changed so much since I lived here and moved away in 2013, but there really is a lot to offer here. So those are my quick little tips. And one final tip for tourists visiting DC: when you're on the escalators, stay to the right if you're not walking. If you're walking, you can walk on the left. But if you're just standing, stay to the right, because there's a lot of people who are busy trying to get where they're going, and it drives us nuts if you stand and block the escalator. So, all right, thank you. See you next week.